What is going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And on this video, we're going to be looking at 3 takeaways from World Series 2022 between the Houston Astros and the Philadelphia Phillies Game 2. We're going to break down 3 things that I really took away from the game. And we're going to begin with the first takeaway. Now, there's no doubt about it, Framber Valdez was absolutely dealing in Game 2. Now, it's not without controversy because everything around the Houston Astros will always be seen as controversial, as some form of cheating. But there were some things that went down during the game in terms of the way that Valdez was kind of touching his hand, changing his glove out. There was a lot of mention and a lot of conversation about it on Twitter, but that did not eliminate the fact that this player was absolutely dealing. When you look at what Valdez was able to do with the Philadelphia Phillies, I believe he had 9 strikeouts, and this is typically a ground ball pitcher. The way that his pitches move out of the zone really keeps the hitters off balance. This Phillies lineup was really unable to kind of quell what he had going in Game 2. There's no doubt about it that Philadelphia is going to be paying much more close attention if this series goes to where Framber gets another game to start and pitch. I think MLB will be a little bit more preoccupied with what he is doing, with how his mannerisms are on the mound. Rob Thompson would say it after the game, you know, these guys get checked almost every inning, but it is something that I think Major League Baseball will pay a little bit closer attention to if Valdez gets another start. Now, as we look at the second takeaway from Game 2 of the World Series, the Philadelphia Phillies were unable to capitalize really on the moments and the mistakes that the Houston Astros made. We would see them capitalize greatly in Game 1, being able to come back from a 5-0 deficit. But in Game 2, they were unable to make those big hits, come up with those big clutch moments in Game 2 that would allow them to really find themselves with a 5-2 victory. And those 2 runs kind of were a gracious thing, because Philadelphia really should have had a lot more runs on the board, really should have been able to take a 2-0 lead back to Philadelphia, but they were unable to capitalize in those moments, and therefore Houston was able to walk away. And that leads me into my third takeaway. Houston won Game 2, tying up the series 1-1. This was a very big statement win for the Houston Astros. Kind of looking at the way that the series played out, Game 1, they were really knocked back on their heels. They thought that they could coast after getting out to a 5-0 lead in Game 1, but they were unable to hold on to that. And by doing so, they kind of woke Philadelphia up. Here in Game 2, they would come out, score those 3 runs right in the first inning, ended up putting an extra 2 runs on the board. But when you look at what this does for the Houston Astros, it re-solidifies themselves mentally within that clubhouse. Like, hey, this is ours. We got this. We can keep this momentum going. Now, as they head back to Philadelphia for Games 3, 4, and 5, it's going to be very interesting to see how Philadelphia really rallies around their team and how much pressure they put, as the fans put, on the Houston Astros. I think that for Houston, they've gotten very used to being the bad guys of baseball. They've gotten very used to being hated, being vilified, being labeled cheaters every single place they go. But there's no place like Philadelphia more hostile that they could enter besides the Bronx, that they can get this type of treatment. And I think that when you look at the way that the games in New York went down for the Houston Astros, the livelihood of that crowd, the liveliness of that crowd is going to be absolutely nothing in compared to how loud, how lively it's going to be in Philadelphia. I think that the crowd in Philadelphia is really going to give the Houston Astros a run for their money, and that's even before the players on the field do anything. So I think that it's going to be a very interesting series now that it has shifted back to Philadelphia. No doubt about it, it's going to be a very, very interesting series. If Philadelphia continues to falter and not capitalize on those mistakes and those moments that Houston gives them, Houston is going to walk away with this series. But if Philadelphia can capitalize on those moments, if they can use those mistakes that the Astros make, how few and far between they do actually come, if Philly can capitalize on that, Philadelphia has a very good chance of walking away with the World Series here in 2022. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings on this down in the comment section below. Philly fans, how are you feeling now coming away with a split as you head back home where you have not lost in 35 straight games at home. Houston Astros fans, how are you feeling now with Philadelphia on the precipice of something that you really didn't expect them to do, being able to take one of the 2 games in Houston and now heading back to the very hostile Philadelphia? Let me know your thoughts, your feelings down in the comments, or find me over on Twitter at banter_baseball, and we can keep the conversation rolling. Now, before we get into all of the closing thoughts, head over to baseballbanterbroadcast.com. We have some new merchandise up in support of Red October, in support of the Philadelphia Phillies as they battle the Houston Astros. Use the promo code Red October to save 10% off your order. Keep it locked in all season long to the entire GLMG family with We Sibs, the Grand and Geek Show, and of course here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast by hitting the subscribe button on all 3 channels. Check out our partner lids in the show notes and the link below down in the description. And you can head over to baseballbanterbroadcast.com. Like I said, use promo code Red October to save 10% off your order. Keep it locked in all postseason long as we continue to look and round out the takeaways from each game of the World Series, as well as the latest news, notes, and my personal thoughts, theories, and opinions on the game of Major League Baseball. Peace.